Hello and welcome to Tabletop 24, and thank you for joining us for another Marvel Champions Hero unboxing. So we have our second mutant, Phoenix. So we previously unboxed Cyclops, so these should go hopefully hand in hand. It's interesting that we've chosen to go with Phoenix rather than Jean Grey, potentially because Phoenix is slightly more powerful, but who knows? Okay, so as always, we have our poster and a couple new keywords. So we've got villainous, permanent, some bits and pieces there if you're not familiar with. And we have our Phoenix deck. Right. So we are going to start straight off with Jean Grey. 6 hand size, 9 hit points with 3 recovery. Setup, put your Phoenix Force upgrade into play, restrained side face up. Place 4 power counters on it. As a response, after you make a basic recovery, place 1 power counter on Phoenix Force. And Phoenix herself, hand size 5, 9 hit points still. 3 thwart, 1 attack, 2 defense. Silent Bond, hero resource. Remove 1 power counter from Phoenix Force, generate a wild resource. Quite nice, limit 1 per round. So it's going to be quite nice. Going to go into play. So, Phoenix form. We will start with the restrained side. It's going to be coming into play. You gain the restrained trait. Force response after the last power counter is removed. Flip this card. So, and there's no real other benefit there. And then Unleashed, you gain the Unleashed trait. Phoenix gets -2 thwart but +2 attack. Force response, after a power counter is placed here, if there are 4 or more, flip the card. So really going to be maintaining and bouncing back with that Phoenix Force as we go. Much as we had with our Cyclops deck, we're going to have Cyclops with the Phoenix ally. Our first up ally is Cyclops. So we've got 2, 2, 3. After Cyclops enters play, place 2 power counters on Phoenix Force. So giving sort of regenerating that sort of restrained. Force interrupt, when Cyclops leaves play, remove 2 power counters from Phoenix Force. So if you can control when that is, you're really going to be able to change when and you're handling into Unleashed and Restrained. We've got the unique White Hot Room. Alter Ego action, exhaust White Hot Room, choose to either place 1 power counter on Phoenix Force or heal 2 damage from Jean Grey. Okay, so really getting some control there. A 2-cost upgrade for Phoenix suit. Phoenix gains the aerial trait. While you have a restrained trait, you gain steady. And whilst you have the unleashed trait, you gain retaliate 1. So again, all coming down to that control. Rise from the Ashes. Interrupt. When you would be defeated, remove this card from the game, rid of your identity, and restore it to its printed hit point value instead. Remove each power counter from Phoenix Force. So it's going to force you into that unleashed state, but it just saves you from getting removed or defeated. A copy of Telekinetic Shield. Attached to a friendly character for 2-cost upgrade. Force interrupt. When you attach a character will take damage from an enemy attack, place that damage here instead. And if there is at least 5 damage here, discard Telekinetic Shield. So that's nice. It's going to start really taking away that ping damage if you can. Okay. Mental Paralysis. Hero form only. Attached to a non-elite minion. Attached minion cannot activate. Force response, after you flip to Alter Ego, discard this card. So it's really forcing you there to stay in hero mode. Mind Control, poor Sabretooth. Attached to a non-elite minion, take control of that attached minion and treat it as a controlled ally with a blank text box. Its thwart is equal to its printed scheme and it takes 1 consequential damage after it thwarts or attacks. You can get a really nice big minion out. It might be quite useful to take control of it. It is a 4-cost, so it is quite expensive, but you've got that wild resource ability, so it could potentially only be 3. Okay, so we've got 2 copies of Telekinetic Attack. 3-cost event. There's an attack, deals 7 damage to an enemy. If you have the Unleashed trait, this attack deals 2 additional damage and gains overkill. So you really power through and get on board with punching through minions. Psychic Blast for a 2-cost event for deal 4 damage to the villain. If you have the Unleashed trait, deal 4 damage to each minion engaged with you. So really punching through if you've got that Unleashed trait. 2 copies of Telepathic Trickery. For thwart, remove 4 threat counters from a scheme. If you have the Unleashed trait, stun and confuse an enemy. 2 copies of Phoenix Firebird. Hero action, choose to either remove 1 power counter from Phoenix Force and ready Phoenix, or place 2 power counters on Phoenix Force. So again, really getting that control over which form you're going to be in. So out of the box, Phoenix is a justice aspect. Start off with Banshee with a 2/2/3. After Banshee thwarts, confuse a minion. Then we've got Marvel Girl for 2/1/3. Interrupt when Marvel Girl attacks a minion, remove X threat from main scheme, where X is that minion's printed scheme. Okay, so really using the minion's scheme against them. We've got 3 copies of Mission Training. Attached to an X-Men ally, max 1 training upgrade per ally. Attached ally gets +1 thwart and +2 hit points. That's quite nice. 3 copies of Psychic Manipulation. Play only if you identify as the psionic trait. Interrupt, thwart. When the villain schemes, this activation removes threat instead of placing it. Oh, that's quite nice. It is costly to come out in the scheme phase. It means you can have a bit of an off turn potentially. But if you've got a big, punchy villain, that could help. Mutant Peacekeepers. Play only if you have the X-Men trait. Hero action for thwart. Exhaust your hero and any number of X-Men allies. Remove X threat from among schemes in play where X is a total of thwart of those characters. So it's really, really sort of versatile, that. And we've got 3 copies of Swift Retribution. Hero action. Attack the villain schemes. Deal 4 damage to the villain. Could be useful just to finish it off, but it is quite risky. Then 2 copies of Passion for Justice. Max 2 per deck. With Wild Resource. When you spend this card to play a thwart event, that event removes 1 additional threat. So it's just topping that up. In our basic cards, we have Storm, which is 5 cost, 2/2/3. Reduce the cost to play Storm by 1 if your identity has the mutant or X-Men traits, much like we've seen for Angel in Cyclops deck. And interrupt when Storm thwarts a scheme, move 2 threat from that scheme to another scheme. Okay, so you can really potentially get some hard to manage schemes out there. So that's quite nice. A copy of Cerebro. Play only if you have the X-Men trait. Mutant trait. Alter Ego action. Exhaust Cerebro. Search the top 5 cards of your deck for an X-Men ally. Search your whole deck instead if you control a silent character, and add that ally to your hand and shuffle, which is quite nice. Psychic Report, as we saw in the Cyclops deck. Hero action, ready Cyclops and Phoenix. Choose to either return a Cyclops or card from your discard pile to your hand, or place 2 power counters on Phoenix Force. 3 copies of Downtime. Play under any player's control and get +2 recovery. Then, as we saw with Cyclops, we have our 3 new Strength, Energy, and Genius cards. Downtime. And then we are into our Obligation. So, Burning Hunger. When revealed, if you have the Unleashed trait, search the encounter deck, discard pile, and set aside areas for Dark Phoenix and reveal her. Then remove Burning Hunger from the game. If you have the Restraint trait, remove 1 power counter from Phoenix Force, and this card gains Search. Okay, very thematic towards the Phoenix. So, Dark Phoenix, 2 scheme, 2 attack, 12 damage. That is strong. Steady, Toughness, and Villainous. When Dark Phoenix schemes, place that threat on Consume the World if able. When revealed, search the encounter deck, discard pile, set aside area for Consume the World and reveal it. Here we have Consume the World. It's permanent. While there is no threat here, this scheme loses the crisis icon. Force response, after the threat is placed here, if there is at least 12th threat here, the player loses the game. Really tough to manage with the pair of them. I think it's going to be quite hard. And then we've got 3 copies of Fiery Rage, Peril, and when revealed, if Dark Phoenix is in play, she activates against you. If Dark Phoenix is not in play, place 1 threat on Consume the World, and this card gains Surge. So it really puts a time counter there on Phoenix. Okay, so we are into our additional cards for the pack. So we've got 3 aggression cards, Psychic Assault. Play only if you have the Psionic trait. Hero action, deal 3 damage to an enemy, confuse that enemy. And we've got 3 copies of Psychic Misdirection for protection. Play only if you have the Psionic trait. Hero Interrupt. When an enemy attacks you, choose a different enemy. Damage from that attack is dealt to the chosen enemy instead of you. So that's really nice, really sort of misdirect the damage being thrown around. 3 copies of Psychic Kicker for leadership. Play only if your identity has the Psionic trait. Ready an ally. That ally gets +2 thwart, +2 attack for its next basic thwart or attack action in this phase. Then we have 2 copies of Soul Sisters. So team up, Phoenix and Storm. Ready Phoenix and Storm. Heal 2 damage from each of them. That's quite nice. Should be a nice pairing for Phoenix and Storm, especially as we've already got Storm in this deck, so it could replace the Cyclops Tina potentially, or work sort of into the Storm deck that I believe is coming. So thank you for joining us for this Marvel Champions Hero unboxing. If you haven't noticed already, check out other videos on the channel, give us a like and a subscribe, and we will catch you next time. Take care.